Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Playbook. This week's guest is none other than Natosha Scungio. Natosha, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time and coming down this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. One thing we'll usually talk about from this podcast is we want to kind of hear about everyone's journey. Somebody who's successful in real estate, regardless of how long they've been doing it. What were they at prior to real estate? So why don't you talk to us a little bit, take a trip down memory lane.
Okay.
And what were you doing prior to real estate? And what kind of got the thought process of maybe real estate would be a good career for you?
Okay. So prior to real estate, I was a hairdresser for about 12 years over on the east coast of Florida. I'm a Florida native. I did that for so long that I guess I just experienced burnout. My clients, I loved my clients, but it just physically was a very physically demanding job being on your feet all day. And I owned my own little studio for a couple years in hair. So I had that entrepreneurship, building clientele, keeping business going, scheduling everything. Like I already had that in my hair industry. And actually one of my clients, when I was doing her hair, she's like, how much longer are you going to do this? And I was a new mom too.
Mm-hmm.
I had our first daughter. She was probably about 2 at this time. And she actually was like, you'd be really good at real estate. Because I always, every time I would drive neighborhoods, I would notice things about houses, just details like, oh man, that house is for sale. I wonder why. Like just curiosity about what's going on in the market naturally. It just was something I was pulled.
Just very inquisitive.
Yeah. And I always would talk to her about it. And actually, when I was doing hair in my little studio, I always had a TV behind me or in front of the client, and it was always playing HGTV. I know everyone mentions HGTV, but I would say, oh, look at that. I would always do that to this kitchen. That one client, I remember very specifically, she was like, you should get into real estate. And she kind of planted that seed in my mind about 7 years ago.
Okay.
And it just stayed there. Stayed there for a couple years, had another kid. My husband got a new job over here in Tampa, and when we moved, I lost all of my hair clientele. So it was kind of a no-brainer. Once we came over here, it was time. I needed to do what I always kind of had in the back of my mind, and I just signed up for the course, didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
Signed up for the course, took off.
The rest is history, right?
The rest is history.
So let's talk about a little bit about, I think you talked on some key nuggets here that I kind of want to go a little deeper on.
Okay.
One of them, obviously, your previous background, hairdressing. It's, we always kind of try to connect the dots, figure out, are we noticing any patterns with previous endeavors, previous employment, previous jobs that successful agents have had that helps them get into success quicker in real estate. What we find a lot is something kind of in a consumer-based industry, whether it's, service, like hospitality, hairdresser, we just had one who was an interior designer, but just kind of that human connection and going above to service the clients. And then also another one we find is teaching, just kind of from the discipline and the structure. And typically if you can manage a classroom of kids, you're okay to manage some buyers and sellers, right?
Yeah.
So, a couple things that you talked on, I want to kind of, you shed a light on it, is hairdressing. A couple things that I wrote down here is customer service, obviously, knowing how to go above and beyond for the clientele to service them. Business owner, so you already kind of had that entrepreneur spirit, that mindset of, hey, a paycheck isn't guaranteed every week. I'm going to kind of get out what I put in.
Yep.
And then one thing you even said was the scheduling, which I also kind of put a sidebar of discipline. So why don't you tell me how having these skills helped you with the transition into real estate? And even though we obviously know it's a tough transition, real estate's never easy, maybe gave you a leg up from the competition.
Yeah, so I'll start with clients. It just going into real estate, coming from hair, having clients that I've been doing their hair for 10 years, I saw the devotion and the commitment they had with me, and I wanted to portray that into real estate, where I knew I had to build strong relationships with now real estate clients. So just from day one, I don't know if it's what I've always known. I hone in so hard on what the client's really looking for. What are they really going to be happy for? I'm not just looking at numbers. I'm really trying to connect with the client, get to know them, and create a long-lasting relationship. I still keep in touch with most of my clients, even just text, hey, what's up? One of my clients just had a baby. She's keeping me in the loop. Like, that's just
awesome.
something from hair. I would say maybe gave me a leg up. It's just realizing how important client connections are.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it probably gave you a little bit more confidence than most,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like you kind of went in.
Yeah.
I know what this is gonna take.
Yeah.
I know I got to learn a whole new craft.
Yes.
But I'm confident that I can handle the human connecting portion.
Yes. Yes. So I will say that made the transition into real estate. Put that down. That's never going to stop going off. Just made the transition from career, so like hair to real estate a little bit easier, understanding that. As far as entrepreneurship, like you said, I was responsible for my income. I was just I guess I always call it the hustle muscle. You know, you have to flex it. But I am guilty over flexing it and then burning myself out a little bit. So that's where I kind of get into schedule. Is even with hair, I would have clients texting me 10 o'clock at night, hey, I have an event tomorrow. Hey, can you squeeze me in? Hey, can you do this? And really just trying to tell that hustle muscle to just calm down. You know, we need a break, we need to stretch. Was really hard for me in hair, and it's even harder in real estate.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because, I mean, the deal's on fire, you got to save things, you know, so schedule, I'm still trying to figure it out, but I do notice that things function better if you just block yourself out, create a calendar. I did not do that a lot last year, and I'm starting to do it more now this year, and I have a really good flow kind of going throughout my week. I'm noticing things are kind of just falling into place if I stick to, like Mondays are marketing and motivation days. Tuesdays are my follow-ups. Wednesdays and Thursdays, and Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I leave open for appointments.
Okay.
Or like Fridays, if I have nothing going on, I try to prospect. Try to get out. Let the prospecting turn into happy hour.
Yeah, absolutely.
Happy hour, you're networking as well. And I have 2 kiddos, so weekends are a little tricky.
Yeah,
I try to work like 1 to 2 weekends a month kind of thing. Keep 2 weekends open. So schedule's important.
Absolutely, 100%. And I mean, there's a couple things that, we've spoken about on previous episodes. One of them is staying disciplined to the schedule. So it sounds like you're doing that. And it's not just discipline to a work schedule, but it's what I call reverse engineering. Obviously, in real estate, similar to what it sounds like. And hair, like I obviously never thought about that, like people calling in a frenzy. It's 10 o'clock at night. I got an event tomorrow. I think they would have planned ahead a little bit about
No, they don't.
more. But, but I'm sure you're getting those calls now, buyer homes on the market. I got to go see it ASAP type thing.
There's a showstopper. What time can we go in the morning? I'm like, okay.
100%.
Yeah.
But one thing, kind of reverse engineering the schedule is not only putting your work events in there, which it sounds like you're doing primarily Monday through Friday, and then obviously I'm sure if appointments are needed on the weekends, you fit them in, but then also making sure that your family and personal obligations are met as well.
Yes.
And are you finding more balance
This
kind
year
of in your life?
Yeah, this year, last year was kind of my first full year in real estate and actively working, taking leads, converting contracts, etc. I just went 110 miles per hour, started off, and I was like, let's just do this. I'll figure it out. Last year compared to this year, my personal life struggled a little bit. I definitely found that I was like, whoa, I need to dial it back a little bit or just structure it differently.
100%.
And now that I've learned the structure differently part of it, I'm learning how to just manage time management different and fit family back in, make sure family is taken care of, make sure I know when to check out and
you
check
don't get
back
burned
in.
out again?
Yes.
You're not looking for another career in 5 years?
No.
Type of thing?
I actually saw a psychic. She told me I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing.
There you go.
I thought it was pretty cool.
So the universe spoke to you.
It did, yes.
So now let me ask you, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here. So last year, not really working to a schedule. You're just like, go, appointment, I'm there. This year, it's like, hey, I'm putting some boundaries. I'm kind of setting some standards. I'm making sure, obviously, I'm servicing my clients, still giving that red carpet, world-class treatment.
Absolutely.
But I'm there for my kids and my husband as well, and myself. I got some things that I might want to do outside of work.
Yes.
If you can kind of, like, what did you, because I know a lot of people, when they do that, they get nervous. They're going to be less productive. They're going to create some structure, some boundaries. They're going to lose clients, lose business. What have you found, and I know it's early on with going into the 3rd month of this year and not even in peak season yet, what have you found? Are you any less productive than you were last year?
I have found tricks and ways to work smarter, not harder. And one book I'm going to name drop is Conversion Code. I think it's Chris Smith.
Yep.
Yeah.
With Curator.
Yep. He goes into work smarter, not harder. And that whole chapter just resonated with me from my prior year, my previous year of just like going all out. And I forget exactly what tips, but I mean, I remember reading it, listening to it, just taking notes. This is what I want to do. This is how I want to network. This is how I want to follow up. I only want to do my follow-ups. Because before I would sit down at my computer for like 4 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think there was like, I didn't think to get out of my office space, go meet people, go physically network, go tour new construction. I was just like all behind the scenes, you know? So,
Right.
He just, in that book, taught me a lot of tricks on how to work smarter, not harder. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on exactly what
Yeah.
the tips were, but you know what I mean.
No, absolutely. And I mean, so one of the misconceptions
Yeah.
like a lot of people have is if you kind of do that, you create a balance for yourself, your life, that, all right, I'm going to be less productive, I'm going to make less money. But what we find is that the opposite happens.
Yes.
Because one, I say a lot of times, you know, in certain trainings that I've done or in conversations, you know, some people work just to work. And what I mean is like, I got to stay busy, I got to make money, but they're not really being, as you would say, smart with their time.
Yes.
And when you created what it sounds like structure,
Yeah.
plus what I also kind of picked up on is you started to get a vision.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're like, all right, this is where I want to be, this is where I'm going, this is what it
Yes.
starts to look like.
Yeah.
So now what that correlates into is now you're more purposeful
Yes.
with the work you're doing. So not only are you more structured in the work and being more efficient, but because you're finding a vision and a purpose, you're doing the work at a much higher level.
Exactly. Yes. I feel like I'm what's the word I'm looking for? Like I leveled up this year.
Balance.
Yes. I feel balanced. I feel like there's a lot more purpose.
You're not off
I
key,
know what
you're
I'm
like-
doing. Well, I'm never gonna know everything,
Yeah.
but I have a good grasp.
Yeah.
And the work kind of flows better with more structure and like back on the like work smarter not harder. I just was like just trying to keep the hamster wheel going before, just as many hamsters as I could throw in there I was. And I really this year have gained some really awesome clients. I'm
That's
still
awesome.
working them, nurturing them, but I see the reward paying off, just putting as much focus that they need into this nurture as where last year I was just kind of a little robotic, maybe, just like following up as I should. Where these clients, I'm really focusing on, like I said, gaining a connection, a long-lasting relationship. Hopefully, I'm thinking referrals in the future. You
Absolutely,
know, so
100%.
that's what I mean by work smarter. Is I'm really working with a purpose now.
Yeah, and you're doing that foundational work, right? You're
Yeah.
making sure that you have a sturdy structure. Before, you're just building floor upon floor.
Yes.
But you really hadn't done the groundwork yet, which is
Exactly.
really where you're being purposeful and to make sure that it's not just like you said, you don't get that burnout like you
Yeah.
experienced in the past, but you're building a business that's built to last.
Yep.
But also one where, in your previous endeavor in hairdressing, and then last year with your first year in real estate where you didn't have the balance, now you're starting to put that in place to make sure you don't get that burnout.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Things
Well,
are good.
Awesome.
Smooth
Yeah.
sailing over here.
Definitely. Well, doing a lot better than last year. You know, it's never
Yeah.
perfect, but it's like, you know,
Yeah.
you could continue to just grow on the wins,
Yep.
get a little bit better, read another book,
Yep.
you know, plug in another piece. And they always say success is a compound of micro commitments and these minor changes that you make into who you are and your craft and things of that nature rather than just one massive shift or pivot.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, I agree. I
what's
see that.
something so getting into real estate, obviously, you got a client that says you'd be great at this. It's always been in the back of your mind. You've been very inquisitive with homes. You got HGTV kind of playing in the background, seeing how easy real estate's going to be.
Manifesting.
Yeah, how much money you're going to make selling $1 million house in an hour. What's the one thing I always like to ask this? So getting into real estate, you got a vision of what it's going to look like, what do. What's the one thing you didn't expect?
All the dirty work, all the crawling through crawl spaces, going through inspection reports, what's wrong with the house, sinkholes, just all the behind the scenes you don't see.
They
you
don't show
know?
that on
They
HGTV.
don't show that on HGTV or Selling Sunset.
Yeah, that's true. They don't show it there either.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, I would say like the minutia, what really goes on to the job, not all the sunshine and
Exactly.
rainbows, but like once you peel back the curtain,
Yes.
see what you're really doing, get your
Yeah.
hands dirty, what it looks like.
Yeah. I kind of say it and envision it as what the client doesn't see is what I didn't realize goes on.
Yeah.
You know? So we bought a house 3.5 years ago, and that transaction, it was seamless. We became friends with our agent. There's tons of negotiation going on. I was postpartum, a little hormonal. I freaked out. There wasn't a cleaner. It didn't get professionally cleaned when it was agreed upon.
Yeah.
Now that I'm an agent, I'm like, oh my God, we were those clients.
Yeah.
But I just thought that because our realtor did such a good job and she kept our emotions in check, we were like, this was the best transaction ever. So I think of it that way, as like I was once a client and I thought it was easy. And then now that I'm behind the scenes, I'm like, there's so much she did not tell us now
Yeah.
that I know.
Yeah, a lot of work that goes into it, right?
A lot of communication too. There's
ton.
so much behind the scenes communication.
Well, you're the liaison between everybody. Title,
Yeah.
mortgage, inspector, any repairs that need to get done, insurance. And
Yep.
anytime you're kind of buyer or sellers need anything, you're kind of the one putting them in touch and making sure it gets done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So that's it.
definitely a lot that goes into it there.
Yeah.
So another thing I'd like to ask is like, what do you, a lot of agents are going to do different things to ensure they have success in the marketplace or something that they're looking to build on. I always say, if you're doing too many things, you're probably not going to execute any of them because your bandwidth, you're spread too thin.
Yep.
What's the one thing that you're really working on now, besides obviously the structure and balance, to take your career to the next level?
I am planting roots in my neighborhood market.
Okay.
I live in Apollo Beach in a neighborhood that's it's resort style living. It's very sought after. And there's a lot of elite agents in there. There's a lot of like long-term, well-known, top producing agents in there. And I wanted to get some knowledge under my belt and some experience. And this year I'm focusing very hard on I'm going to start farming the area. I'm getting out to every event. I'm going to all the happy hours of the clubhouse. Just really getting my name out in the community. That I really just want to start planting roots there, so people know I am not only anywhere from Wesley Chapel to Sarasota. Like I want to be your neighborhood realtor. So that's my focus this year. Is really just kind of embedding roots into my condensed farming area and really marketing and getting everyone to, like, when they think of a realtor in this area, they think of me. So that's also marketing. I'm trying to, this year is my year to really expand my marketing and just kind of be everywhere.
So, and obviously you can only you don't want to go everywhere because you want to go deeper, which sounds like, and then kind of expand out. So I always say, hey, take the needle, drop the pin on the map. Where's that? That's the community you live in. And then as you build, market share there and you're getting momentum, then you just start slowly spreading out depending on how far you want to go.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're doing the right things, farming, going to the events, the happy hours. And a lot of it, what I'm hearing is really focusing more on your personal brand, and then trying to kind of tie in through your marketing, hey, local realtor and resident type thing, right? Like, I care about this community. I want to preserve our home values. I reside here too, and it's probably nice when you have to commute to a listing appointment there too, right?
Via golf cart.
Yeah, there you go. Makes it a lot easier.
Yes.
So that's awesome, and obviously I'm sure just like in, with real estate and working leads and trying other things that you'll be successful, but obviously that's going to be a long-term play and
Thank you.
You got to keep growing and building on that.
Yeah, that's my plan.
Keep at it. Sounds like you're heading on the right track. So
Thank you.
another thing, I want to kind of bring up. So a lot of times, you got into a high level of production rather quickly. Most agents are struggling, right? We have a lot of agents out there still struggling now, maybe doing it in a couple of years. Maybe somebody's newly licensed, doesn't even know where to start, doesn't really have any, brokerage that provides much support, or doesn't really know where to go and doesn't have a sphere they're working. Or maybe it's somebody that's getting licensed. They're either newly licensed or in the process of getting licensed. What would be one tip you would share with them if you're like, hey, knowing what I know now, if I were going back there and I'm trying to get in production or I'm about to get licensed, what's the one thing you would tell them to focus on?
Training, opportunity, and business. What brokerage is going to offer you business, leads, training, and opportunity right off the bat, and not a lot do. So I experienced that. I was with another brokerage that I felt stranded on an island. I went into real estate thinking that everyone was going to help me, like I was going to be the new one and everyone's going to be excited, and I didn't realize a lot of brokerages out there are not designed that way.
Like, get out of here, trying to shoot you away.
Figure it out, girl. Like, you're on your own. You can't teach real estate on YouTube. So
no, it's a lot. It's one of those things where you kind of, like you said, to the home, the experience of becoming a realtor, you got to get your hands dirty, and a lot of that's going to be face to face, belly to belly, kind of. Get in the trenches, and watching trainings on Zoom or watching YouTube videos. There is a value in that, but I agree with you. Not everything can be cloud based. So just kind of come and get that face to face interaction, and then also I think like more of the mentoring or shadowing, right? Like, all right, it's one thing to hear what this looks like, or one thing to somebody on a video tell me, but I want to experience it. Can I go on a listing appointment with you? Can I go to our home with you and see how you engage with your clients? And then you're obviously picking up on tips and tricks that you kind of bring into your own practice.
Yeah. And that doesn't exist at most, like when I was a beginning and I just got my license, I just Googled top brokerages near me, and I still wasn't aware of splits and commissions, and I was kind of just learning it all, and I thought choose top brokerage,
Right.
and you're good, choose the big name and you're good, and it's really not the case when you're starting out. You really need
The support.
opportunity and support. Yeah.
So how was it, just kind of go backwards a little bit, when you started off in hairdressing? Was it more of, hey, you're going to rent a booth and pay for your own clientele? Or was it more somewhere where like, hey, I'm kind of getting my feet wet, I'm working off their book of business until I build my own?
Yes, it was that. So I was an assistant for actually the owner of the salon for 3 years.
Okay.
So I did assistant work for 3 years. All of his clientele knew me, and I really built the relationships with them in those 3 years. And I was so young. I was like 17 when I started.
That's
Can
awesome.
you even work at 17? Yeah, so I started out really young. I mean, I was a kid. But I was the youngest hairdresser in the salon with my own chair at 20 years old.
Oh, wow.
So
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a big accomplishment.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, but it was kind of tough because every client that would get my chair, they'd be like, "How old are you?" And
Yeah.
you're doing my hair, and they would underestimate me, and then I'd have to go into the whole age conversation, and I'm like, "Listen, my mom's a hairdresser. I've been doing this since I could breathe. Just sit down and be quiet."
Let me take over.
Yeah. So, so I did an assistant for 3 years. Then I got my own chair, and I was behind the chair from age 20 to 26. Moved to Hawaii for a year.
Oh, wow.
Came back.
How was that?
It was awesome.
Was
Hawaii
it?
and California. So
Okay.
I did both for a year, and that was my find myself time. Found myself, came back, went back to the same salon, and then I worked there for about 5 more years. I don't know if I'm doing the math correct. And then I just decided I wanted to do it on my own. I wanted
Right.
my own schedule, wanted my own studio. Just wanted to. It was really schedule based. I wanted to be able to create my own schedule, be in control of my own earnings, profits, products, etc.
So that mindset really helped you a lot then with that transition to real estate.
Yes.
Kind of
Yeah.
having that background and going through those experiences and really creating a vision of what you wanted real estate to look like prior to even getting into real estate, because you had a vision of what you wanted your life to look like.
Yes. Yes. Even if I was just doing hair, I just knew that's how I wanted to work.
Yeah.
So
Well, it makes
it's working
sense.
out.
So obviously you're working, right now covering a lot of counties, obviously really honing in on the Apollo Beach area, especially the community you reside in. One thing we always like to ask is, because every agent, especially depending on the area, is going to have a different depiction of the market and, kind of what's going on and, price points, competition, things of that nature. So right now, what are you seeing in the market? What are you advising your sellers and buyers of?
Right now, I'm seeing like such a quick shift depending on the price point. I have clients, in a little bit of a lower price point. I have clients really in a higher price point, and it's just completely different right now. They're two different animals depending on price point, and a little bit lower price point. Back 4 months ago, we had time. We could think about it a little bit. We could negotiate, offer some, or ask for some seller concessions. Anything under 300 is flying right now, and it's kind of giving me spring market vibes. I feel like it's getting here a little bit earlier than I expected.
I say it started in January probably, right?
Yeah. Actually, right after the holidays, it was a go from there. But I am seeing homes that are a little bit higher price point, still kind of sitting, they're hanging out. I feel like it's a different clientele that's going to be buying that. But I'm advising. I try to kind of give a la carte advice depending on
Situation.
what price point, what situation, what market we're in. I'm just seeing just a lot. You mentioned it in a training before. It's kind of confusing right now because it's not like one size doesn't fit all in the market right now.
And the key indicators are on opposite sides of the spectrum.
Yes. So I just try to give honest advice. I'm as transparent. I'm seeing the market take off over here in this price point. We need to be quick. We need to move fast. We might have to offer over asking. Escalation clauses are back. We're kind of in a multiple offer situation again. And then my little bit higher price point clients, I'm still saying, hey, you know what? There's still negotiation room on the table. Let's talk this. It needs a new AC. So it's a little bit of a slower pace kind of at the higher price point still. So that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah. No,
It's kinda
I
different.
think that's what kind of a lot of people are seeing across the board. One thing that, the media doesn't pick up on, especially the Bay Area. So last month, I think we're 17% down in inventory. So you still have this pent-up buyer
inventory is
demand.
very lower.
Very low. And when
Yeah.
the homes come on the market that are priced right and show well, they fly.
Fly.
Back to multiple offer situation.
Yep.
You're going above market. But the difference between now and I want to say that what I call that COVID run, really that mid 2020 to or second quarter-ish of 22 was like back then any house that came on the market would go. The house is in dire straits, above list price, post occupancy, no repairs needed.
Yeah, that's when came into this. So that's why I came in at 110 miles per hour. I'm like, let's do this. I didn't realize this is what it was.
Everything's going.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those homes seem to be sitting a little bit longer. So now it's like, hey, what I know is you price your home right, you have it in show-ready condition, and you have it ready for the market, you're going to get multiple offers, even at the higher price points. But I think what a lot of people are jaded a little bit because they heard a year and a half ago their buddy sold a house in dire straits, got this thing called a post occupancy, didn't have to do any repairs, they paid above list price, they didn't have to do anything pre-list, they didn't have to paint, change the flooring, anything, and they're kind of a little skeptical and wanting
the same experience.
Yeah, which isn't in today's market.
Yes.
But I think a lot of people, because that's not going on, the buyers and sellers out there get a warped perception that, hey, the market's cooling down and this and that. It's like, no, we're just back to a normal market, but it's a very active, hot market.
Yes. I am having to, I feel like you spoke over, it was like over list price. It was crazy what was going on end of 2021. Back then, it was just like, you want the house, what are you willing to offer? Like, how far are you willing to stretch yourself? Where now I'm having to really sit down, talk to my clients and be like, hey, because everything is still flying off the market, it's not seeming like we're having to go this far over asking, or we don't have to worry about appraisal gaps or anything like that. However, we do have to be wary of this, or it's just, I'm feeling like I'm having to do a lot more communicating, not just write an offer, get the house, we move on kind of thing. So it's a little bit of a confusing time, I feel like, for clients and what they're hearing on the market up against what's really on the media up against what's really happening. So.
Especially if they're getting on a national scale, because Florida and Texas are like in a bubble on top of that.
Yep.
So I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like, Natosha, you're heading in the right direction. I'm so stoked to be in business with you, kind of see where your business is going. I'm sure it's going to flourish. Can't wait for you to take over market share in that community over there in Apollo Beach.
I'm coming in.
Coming in hot. But for the time being, for any buyer or seller in the market, whether it's Apollo Beach or anywhere really south of Sarasota, as north as Hernando County, here in the Bay Area, what's the best way for a buyer or seller to get a hold of you? And we're going to put this on all our social media as well. If you can just give the best email address to reach you on and also the best contact number.
Yeah, so email Natosha at 5454realty.com. I'm all over social media, so you can find me Facebook. My business link is Natosha, Natosha, Scungio, difficult to pronounce, Scungio. That's my Facebook. Tampa Bay Realtor on Facebook. I just created a YouTube page. I just went on LinkedIn. I'm going.
You're doing it all.
Across the board, so you can find me.
Awesome. Well, we greatly appreciate having you
Thank
as
you.
this week's guest on the Real Estate Playbook, and we thank you all for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Yes, thank you.